And good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad you're joining us today. Today we have Meghana with us. Meghana Rathi is one of our own members of the Women in AI Education team. She is also a data science consultant at Accenture. She's worked with clients from various industries like supply chain, telecom, healthcare, and has a lot of experience with machine learning, data mining, feature engineering, and data visualization. So she's here today with us to teach you something about PyCharm. So go ahead, Meghana.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Meghana, and like Bhuvna said, I'm a data science consultant, and today I'll be giving you an introduction tutorial on how to use a Python IDE called PyCharm. So it's kind of a beginner level introduction because we'll be looking into how to, first of all, get PyCharm installed, also like tips and tricks to use, and certain things I find quite useful when using PyCharm. So let's get started. First thing you need in order to be able to use PyCharm is you need to download Python if you don't already have it. You can do that using python.org and just download whichever you need, like the Mac version or the Windows version. Today we'll be working with Python 3.10, which is the latest version for my Windows laptop. And then to be able to use PyCharm, you need to go onto the JetBrains website here and download PyCharm. So today we'll be using the PyCharm Community Edition. This is the free version, and it's just very easy to download it. You just download it from this site here. There is a professional version, which is more paid. It does have more features, but I've found that the Community Edition meets all of my coding requirements, and it does more than enough job for me. So we will be using this for the tutorial today. So do download it if you don't already have it, and get it installed. Once you have it installed, it'll look like this icon here, and I just have it opened up here. And you should be able to see a screen similar to this, which will just welcome you to the IDE. We will start off by creating a new project. So you can name your project here. I'm just going to call it PyCharm.
I don't think you're sharing the
tutorial project. And I'll just give that same underscore. And we'll be using the virtual environment. You can use other environments. You can use Conda if you have Anaconda installed, or pipenv. For the purpose of this tutorial, we'll be using the virtual environment. And you see here your base interpreter. If you have different versions of Python, like 3.10, 3.9, you can pick whichever. I'm just going to go ahead and use the 3.10 because that's the latest version on my laptop. And then
I don't think you're sharing the screen, actually.
Oh, am I not? Oh my God. No. 1 second. I did not hit screen share. Okay. Let me just restart then really quickly. So you download Python first from here, this website. You can go into downloads, get it for Windows or for Mac. I'm going to be using Python 3.10. And then you download PyCharm using the JetBrains website, and we're going to be using the Community Edition, so we just download it from here. You can use the professional if you want to pay for it, but the free version does meet all of the coding requirements that we will be using today and in general. So once you have that installed, you can see this icon here. I'm just going to open it. I'm going to restart it actually because I just want to show you how to create a new project. So Community Edition, and it will start off like this. Let's give it a moment. And yeah, so you will see the screen here, and you can either open an existing project or create a new project. So we will just create a new project. So this is where I was before I realized I wasn't sharing my screen. So you can just give your project a name. So let's just do project 1. We will be using virtual environment, and you can use whichever else. So Conda if you have Anaconda, or pipenv. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to use virtual environment. And in this space interpreter here, we can select which Python version we want to use. I'm going to use 3.10 because that's the latest one I have on my laptop. And then we can click on create. And it's just going to set us up with the project. Give it a few seconds. Perfect. So as you can see here, we have like the template already ready for us, given to us by PyCharm. And this is, so mine is looking quite dark because I've selected the dark theme, but you can also get the light theme if you want, if that's something you're more comfortable with. But I prefer to use the dark because it's just easier on the eyes. So you see, we already have some code here. And let's say we have like, more code written up. And sometimes I realize that when I write code very fast, it can be really messy. Like I'm just missing few, like I haven't indented some things because I just wrote really fast. Some things are kind of like not formatted correctly. So what you can do with PyCharm is, let's say you have like a bit of messy code, you can just go into this code section here and you go into reformat file and you just click run, and it just kind of formats it for you back again to like a cleaner look. And that's quite nice feature to have, because instead of you manually going through your code just to see where it's looking a bit messy, you can just do the reformat file and it will do all of that for you. Another thing which is quite useful is, let's say you have some function, some func with some, give it an underscore, some func with some arguments, and you're doing loads of stuff with those arguments inside the function, multiple times it's being used. And then let's just, and then let's just return it as well. Now, I sometimes have this habit of, when I'm just initially writing out code, I'll just, use like random variable names like XYZ or whatever. And then I want to go back and give them more meaningful names. So what you can do here is you can go right click and go and, what you do is you highlight it and then you right click and then you would go into refactor and rename and give it some meaningful name. And then you just say refactor, and it automatically changes all instances of that variable to the name that you just gave it. And that's quite handy, because if you have like hundreds of lines of code and you have like the variable being used in different places, you do want to be able to have something that automatically refactors it for you instead of like manually going back and changing it each time, because you could very possibly miss one instance, and then that would like mess up your code. So that's a good way to refactor in PyCharm. Next, we'll look at how to just run your code. So there's multiple ways you can run your code in PyCharm. One way is you see this green play button here. You can just press that and run. That's one way. You also have a green button here, the play button, and you can just press that for rerunning it. Then you also have the play button here, which would do the same thing again. It has rerun the code. And also you can just highlight the code you want to run and just run here. So those are 4 ways, and you see the shortcut as well. That's another way of running. So a few different ways of running your code in PyCharm. They all work the same way, but yeah, it's just whichever one you're more comfortable to use with. I'm not sure if you noticed, but there was like a green bar just at the top here showing you the keyboard shortcut. Now, this was a plugin I installed, which I thought was quite useful when learning PyCharm. So the way you would install plugins in PyCharm is you go into File, go into Settings, and you see plugins here. Now, the one I have installed from the marketplace here is the Presentation Assistant. What this plugin does is for any like action you do on the IDE, like right clicking in something, it will show you a keyboard shortcut in that green bar up at top or center, wherever you align it. And that's a great way to learn like the new keyboard shortcut, especially when you're learning a new tool like PyCharm. I know some people prefer to use the shortcuts more than like, right clicking or finding it in the menu bar what they're looking for. So this is a nice plugin for that. Very, very good for beginners. And you can just see it here as well in the appearance bar. So you can change the font size to like whatever. You can align it at the top, center, and then just apply. Okay, and we saw it here again, like when you run. There you go, you see the shortcut of it, and you see that for multiple different actions, and you will notice it maybe during the tutorial for the other actions that I do. So that's quite a handy plugin. I would encourage you to install if you can. Next thing that I also find quite useful is being able to create like a to-do list almost in PyCharm. The way you would do this is so you comment. So you just press the hash key to write a comment, and then in all caps just type to do, and then it could be finish off this function, and then maybe I have another function or something where I haven't fully thought out what I want to do, but I do want to come back to it later and finish it off. Just be like, or maybe I want to fix some bugs here, fix bugs in this piece of code. So what this does is, you see this tab here called to do. It will list out all the to-dos you have in your like various different files. For now we just have the one file, and it will give you the location of each to-do. So line number 7, line number 15, I'll tell you what description you gave for it there. This is really useful, especially when sometimes you just have an idea of what you want to do and you just write out, okay, I need a function for this, or I need a class for this, but you don't want to get into the full details of the code just yet. You want to come back to it later. You just can use this functionality, just type to do and like what you want to do in that area, and then later you can just see all of it in this tab, and it makes it quite easy for you to keep track of what you were meant to finish off or what you were meant to do. But if you can't like remember it, it's definitely a great tool to have. So this was quite handy. Next thing I'm going to look at is, so I've heard a lot from like my Python software engineering friends that Django is a great tool to use, especially it's a web framework used for like developing web apps. And when I was learning PyCharm, I found it interesting that there's a way to link Django with PyCharm. So I just thought I would bring that to your attention as well. So in order to be able to do that, you first need to just install Django, which is super easy. You just need to copy paste this into your command prompt. I already have it installed, so I'm going to go ahead and do the next step, which is creating a Django project with PyCharm. So the way I would do this is I would just type Django admin start project and give it a name. So I'll just call it Django project 1. So there we go. Now I'm just going to go back into my PyCharm IDE and I'm going to open up this newly created Django project. So I'm going to go in here and just this, I select the Django project 1. trust this project and I want to open it in this window. So I have it open here. Now going back into my command prompt, I'm just going to cd into this project. Go project 1. And now I'm going to type python manage.py start app, give your app a name. So I'm just going to call it example app 1. And you should see in a second that there is the example app. And so we have the template here ready automatically for us, which is great. Instead of you manually doing it, you just have it all ready. And then you would just go into, let's say, settings.py, into the installed app section, just add in your app here. So example app 1. Okay, so we have it spelled correctly, and then go back here. And next thing you would do is python manage.py run server. Now, what this would do is it would give you a local host port, which you would just paste into your browser. Due to my laptop having technical issues, I can't access this port, but you should be able to, and you just paste it in your browser and you can see the Django environment there. And I thought it was quite a super easy way of like integrating the two and being able to use Django within PyCharm. So I found this quite useful. So that was the Django part. So let's open a new project again. Let's call it Python project 2, virtual environment. We have a base interpreter, create this window. Next thing we're going to look at is for how to integrate your PyCharm projects with Git. So the way you would do this is you would go into this section here called VCS, and you would enable version control integration. And then you would press on whichever, and you can choose Git here, and you press OK. Now, I can't install Git desktop on my laptop, but in order to be able to integrate, you need Git desktop installed. So again, you would do this by just going onto the Git desktop like site and just installing it from there. So yeah, so you can just download it, and once you have it installed, and you just go in VCS, enable version control integration Git, and you should be fine. And then you should be able to see, so I don't have it installed, but you should be able to see all the Git commands of committing, pushing, pulling, so on in your PyCharm environment. And you can easily integrate your work with and get it pushed onto your Git repository or pull work from there. So that's quite a nice integration as well. One last thing I would like to look at is, so we want to create a new Python file, and we'll call it, let's say it's to convert something, some converter. We just want to look at how to do unit testing. So let's just create like a sample function here. So some converter out some arg. It basically gives, let's say, just a 1 each time, or 1 plus some argument, and it just returns this. Okay, so let's just go into run some converter. Okay, just so we have it. So now let's say we want to create a unit test for our file or our something, our class or whatever. You just right click and you go to, and you see this thing here, test. Now we don't already have a test for this, so we're going to go ahead and create a new test. And it will just ask you to name it. It already has like a default name, and we press OK. And you see here, it has given us a template for the unit test. Now, if you just run it straight away, what's going to happen is it's going to fail. Why? Because we have a self.fail here. So get rid of that. and we would do self.assert equal actual and expected. Okay, so let's create our actual. Actual equals sum converter and give it like 2. So this should give us an error. Should be able to, oops. Okay. Expected equals 2. And so you would just import it here as well first of all, but like just for the purpose of this, I'm just going to quickly run this and show you what happens when a test passes. It will just show you like a tick here, and that just shows that the test is passed. And it was like the only work you would have to do is actually write the unit test, but the main template of it is given to you by PyCharm. So these are a few things I found quite useful, and I definitely enjoyed using PyCharm for those reasons, like a tad bit more than, like, for example, using Jupyter Notebooks, which is what I would have used quite early on in my career. But I definitely think using a Python IDE like PyCharm is, it definitely has a lot more, advantages, perks to it. And I do encourage having a go at it and just learning how to use it. So that's kind of the main things I want to talk about in this tutorial. I'll stop sharing just in case there's any questions anyone has, and we can like discuss them.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It was actually quite in depth, and I found out a couple of things that I did not know before as well.